إن الحمد لله نحمده ونعوذ من أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كلام الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل ضلالة في النار عباد الله أوصيكم بتقوى الله حق تقاته وأن تعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا O servants of Allah, I advise you that you fear Allah as He deserves to be feared, and that you hold fast to the rope of Allah altogether, and that you not be divided, and that you not be misled. For indeed, in these days and in this generation, we find that the claims have become prevalent. Everybody is making claims. And we find that the disagreement is present. So everybody's in disagreement. And everybody's making the claim that they're on the truth. كل صاحب مقولة. Everybody who has a statement, he says, my statement is the truth. The way that I am on is the correct way. And the way of everybody else, the way that the other people are on, then it is misguidance. And it is falsehood. And indeed we find that affairs nowadays have become backwards. The people nowadays are going backwards. They're in confusion about the reality. So we find that the people of bid'ah, the people of innovation, from the Ash'a'ira, والصوفية والإخوان والتبليغية كلهم يدعون أنهم أهل السنة. All of them, the Ash'a'ira and the Suf and the Ikhwan al-Muslimin and the Tablighi Jamaat and other than them, all of them they claim to be on the Sunnah. وَيَا لَيْتَ الْأَمْرُ انْتَهَى هَكَذَا. And if only the affair stopped there, if only this corruption stopped with that statement. But instead we find that the situation has led them to say something even more far outlandish than this. So instead of them just saying that they're Ahlul Sunnah, they say about Ahlul Sunnah, those who are on the methodology of the Salaf, those who hold to the way of the Sahaba, they say about them that they're misguided. They give them names, evil nicknames. They call them Wahhabiyya, Jamiyya, Madakhila. They talk about them in their faces and behind their backs. These are their claims. And this is the disagreement. وَلَكِنْ لِلَّهِ الْحَمْدِ. But all praise is for Allah, who made for us a way that when we disagree, we know how to solve our problems. And when we dispute because of the claims of people, we know how to figure it out. So Allah Azza wa Jalla told us, وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهِ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولِ وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْكُمْ. Obey Allah and obey the messenger and those in authority from you. And I want you, O servant of Allah, to remember this, for this is the asl, obedience to Allah and His messenger and those in authority amongst you. And then Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ إِن كُنتُمْ تُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. Allah Azza wa Jalla then says about this disagreement that we find nowadays amongst us. And if you disagree about something, and if you're in dispute about something, then return it back to Allah and His Messenger. If you have Iman in Allah in the last day, that is better and a more correct explanation. So when we return these claims of these individuals and these jama'at, when we return these claims back to Allah and His Messenger, who is that group? Who is Ahlul Sunnah? Who is Al-Firqatul Najiyah? Who is Al-Ta'ifatul Mansura? We find it to be something very simple, ya ibadallah. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من كان على مثل ما أنا عليه اليوم وأصحابه. Those who are upon what I am upon today and my companions. That day, over 1,400 years ago, those who are upon what he was upon that day and his companions, hum Ahlus Sunnah. So when we look at the claims of these groups, then we have to understand, like the Arabic statement is, الدعاوى إن لم تقم عليها ببينات فأصحابها أدعياء. These claims, if they don't bring proof to establish them, then the ones who make them are nothing more than claimants. They're nothing more than people making statements. When we look at it, O servant of Allah, when we look at that asl, obedience to Allah and obedience to the Messenger, the way that he was upon it that day and his companions, this is our asl. And everything that goes against the asl, and everything that goes against what should be apparent, then we apply this principle. And this principle, O servant of Allah, is taken from the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as he said in an authentic hadith, as reported by Al-Bayhaqi, وَأَصْلُهُ فِي الصَّحِيحَيْنِ, and its origin is in the two Sahihs, that Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma, he said, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لو يعطى الناس بدعواهم لادعى رجال أموال قوم ودماءهم ولكن الحجة على المدعي واليمين على من أنكره. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, if the people were to be given just because of their claims, then they would claim the property and the blood of other people. But instead, the proof is on the one making the claim. And the oath or the swear is on the one who's denying it. This is a great principle. And we apply it in our affairs. Every time somebody goes against that asl of obedience to Allah and His Messenger, outwardly and apparently, al-hujjah ala-mudda'i. The evidence is on them to establish their claim. We find them talking bad about Ahlus Sunnah, talking bad about the Salaf, in order to take the money of the people in their hearts. They give them bad nicknames. They attack them and accuse them, only to take your money and to take your hearts. They make claims and promises that they're going to rectify the nation. They make claims that they're going to bring about peace. They make claims that they're going to bring about advancement. They're going to bring safety. They're going to bring unity. ولكن الحجة على المدعي. But the evidence, the burden of proof, is on the one who makes those claims. Allah has already promised you this. When you do what? When you obey Allah. In what fashion? The way that the Prophet was upon and his companions. وعد الله الذين آمنوا منكم وعملوا الصالحات ليستخلفنهم في الأرض كما استخلف الذين من قبلهم وليمكنن لهم دينهم الذي تضى لهم وليبدلنهم من بعد خوفهم أمنا يعبدونني لا يشركون بي شيئا. We already have the promise. We don't need their claims as long as we do what? The asl. Obey Allah and obey His message. We find that when they get authority, they attack the people of the Sunnah. They imprison them and they beat them and they fight against them. They call them kafirs and kill them. And if the people were to be given with their claims, then we would find the men claiming the property and the money of other people. But the proof is on the one making the claim. وَالْيَمِينُ عَلَى مَنْ أَنْكَرَهُ. We have to understand this, O servant of Allah, that we have to be upon the way that they were upon. La mahad. No going any other direction. No going any other place. And when we look at these claims of these groups, all we have to do is compare their outwardness with that which we know to be from the asl. So if we find them corresponding, and if not, then we ask them to bring their proof. Is it these Ash'ariyah who are on the way of the Prophet and his companions? These individuals who interpret, and should I say change, the meanings of Allah's attributes. These individuals who negate Allah's perfection. These individuals who do this with the claim that they're trying to purify Allah from deficiencies. Was this the way of the Sahaba? Did the Sahaba put their intellect above what Allah and His Messenger said? Did the Sahaba say what we understand will affirm and what we don't will deny? Or was the Sahaba's belief that whatever Allah and His Messenger said, to believe in it and the way that it came in a manner that befits His Majesty? Were the Sahaba upon this way? And when these individuals from the Ash'ariyah are addressed, what do they say? Look at how they establish the evidence against themselves. هذه طريقة السلف وطريقة السلف أسلم وطريقة الخلف أعلم وأحكم. They say this was the way of the Salaf, and the way of the Salaf was safer, but the way of the new generation, the next generation, is more knowledgeable and more wise. They established the evidence against themselves that they are on a way other than the way of the Salaf. And how could the way of the Salaf be safer if it didn't have more knowledge and more wisdom? But look at how they established the proof against their own selves. And then they come to you with the claim, Ahlul Sunnah Thalatha. The people of the Sunnah are Thalatha. This is what they say. And they say that the people of the Sunnah are the Salaf, the Ash'ariyah, and the Maturidi. But did the Sahaba follow Abu Hasan al-Ash'ari? Did the Sahaba follow al-Maturidi? Or were they on what the Prophet was upon that day? So we say, al-Hujjah al-Mudda'i. The evidence needs to be brought by the one making the claim, because they have gone against the Asl. They have separated from the way that they followed the Prophet. Or is it these Sufiya? Is it them who are on the way of the Prophet and his companions? When we look at them and they innovate aspects of worship that Allah sent down no evidence for, when they bring about new ways of remembering and mentioning Allah that Allah sent down no evidence for, and they bring about mannerisms and adab والسلوك وأخلاق لم تكن عليها الصحابة, that the Sahaba were not upon. Are they upon what the companions were upon that day in his Prophet, in the Prophet? And when they are addressed, we find them that they say no, those things that you're talking about are for the general people. Those people who haven't reached the certainty that we have. Those people who don't know the truth that we know. But as far as what we do, then it's because Allah has revealed things to us. كَشَفَ اللَّهُ لَنَا هَذَا. Allah who has revealed this to us. Look at how they established the evidence on their own selves. When it said to them, be on the way of the Prophet and his companions, they say, but no, this has been revealed to me. This tariqah, this way of worship, I've been given the preference to have. But then they claim that they love Allah. Where's your proof? قل إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحببكم الله. هذا هو الأصل. This is the foundation. If you love Allah, then follow me, the Prophet was commanded to say. So if they're not following the Prophet and they're claiming to love Allah, we say to them, al-hujjah al-mudda'i. The burden of proof is on the one making the claim. Antum khalaftum Allah wa Rasul. These individuals have gone against Allah and His Messenger. And so we find that from them are those that their evilness has led them to say that Allah is in every place. Allah is inside of everything. Or that Allah is in Himself everything. هل هكذا كان إيمان الصحابة? Was this the iman of the Sahaba? لا والله يا عباد الله. Or those who were upon what the Prophet and his companions were upon, those from the Ikhwan al-Muslimin, those individuals who a year ago, 2 years ago, their whole goal was to get the throne by calling the rulers from the Muslims kuffar, by encouraging the youth and the ignorant to fight and revolt, to protest and boycott. Was this the way of the Sahaba? Is this what the Prophet commanded his ashab with? Alaykum bis-sam'i wa-ta'a. The Prophet said upon you is to hear and obey. So how could they be upon that way? And then we find them nowadays, today, with the same goal of taking the throne, but their methods have changed. So now they call us to democracy. Now they call us to being involved in politics. Were the Sahaba upon democracy? Or did they go by what Allah and His Messenger sent down? Where is judging by the majority when Allah said, and if you were to obey the majority of those on earth, they would misguide you. And then these individuals from the Ikhwan, they try to come and confuse you. So they say there's different types of Salafiyah. You got a Salafiyyatul Ilmiyyah, the knowledge type of Salafi. And then you got a Salafiyyatul Jihadiyyah, the fighting Salafi. And then you got a Salafi, a Siyasiyya, the political Salafi. We say, we look at the Salaf, we found them upon one way, that which the Prophet was upon that day and his companions. So when they come with this claim, what do we say? Al-Hujjah al-Mudda'i. The burden of proof is on you. Because this is not the apparency of the Sahaba. This is not the way that we were brought up. Or do you all think that it's the Tablighi Jama'ah that's on the way of the Prophet and his companions? Yakfikum. It's sufficient for you that 100 years ago they didn't exist. So how could that be the way of the Prophet and his companions? The Prophet ﷺ was commanded to give da'wah. He said in the Quran, as Allah commanded him, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي. Say, this is my path. That path that they were on over 1400 years ago. I call, I give da'wah to Allah upon clear-sightedness, I and those who follow. And then this individual who came and made up these principles while on the toilet, is this the principles that the Sahaba were upon in giving da'wah? Is this the etiquette that they used in giving da'wah? The da'wah of the prophets and the Sahaba was clear. Tawheed, awwalan, with knowledge. But then these individuals come and they claim that they're doing the work of the prophets. We say to them, Al-Hujjah al-Mudda'i. The burden of proof is on you. You're making the claim. When I look at the Prophet, he didn't go 3 days. He didn't go 40 days. He gave da'wah in every aspect of his life with knowledge, with worship. So, O servants of Allah, beware of this. And be clear-minded and clear-sighted in this, that if the people are not upon what the Prophet was upon on that day and his companions, then this is not the asl. This is not the foundation. And anytime somebody goes against the foundation and they make the claim that this is the correct way, then our answer to them is very simple. Al-hujjah ala mudda'i wal-yamin ala man ankara. إن الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على نبيه الذي اصطفى محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه. O servants of Allah, beware of this principle and don't be misled and don't be tricked by the tricks of those people of innovation. Don't let them take you away from the path of the Prophet and the way that he was upon and his companions. Don't let their discouragement of the people of the Sunnah, don't let their attacking of the people of the Sunnah or the small numbers of the people of the Sunnah mislead you. For indeed Allah has promised that the people of the Sunnah will be victorious. They accuse the ulama of the Sunnah. They attack them with their claims. They say about us that we're Jahmiyyah, Mushabbiha. We make Allah like his creation. And is there anyone more steadfast in making Allah unlike anything that exists than the people of the Sunnah? They say about us that we don't know the truth. We're not the people of reality and devout worship. But is there anyone more steadfast in worshiping Allah upon knowledge than the people of the Sunnah? Don't be tricked by the most servants of Allah. They say about us and about our ulama that they're the scholars of the Sultan, that they only do what the rulers say, and that they abandon jihad. I say yes, we're the followers of Sultan. The Sultan meaning Burhan, wal-Hujjah, wal-Dalil. Yes, we're the followers of Sultan if you're talking about proof and evidence and establishment. Then this is our way. And not only do we fight with our swords in our body, but you find us fighting with our pens and our tongues to preserve this religion. They say about us that we don't call to Allah and that we don't try to unify the people. All we want to do is separate the people. All we do is call this bid'ah and call that bid'ah. But have knowledge, O servant of Allah, that indeed our only goal, our only intent is to bring the people back to what the Prophet was upon that day and his companions. To bring them back to worshiping Allah the way the Sahaba did. The people of the Sunnah have fully manned that the later part of this nation will not be rectified except with that which rectified the first part of this nation. So don't be misled, O servant of Allah. Instead, I implore you to hold fast to the book of Allah and the Sunnah. And I say, I deny all aspects of bid'ah and disobedience. And I swear, and I ahlifu billah, that you will not have any success unless you follow the Prophet. Indeed, you won't have any iman until you obey the Prophet in everything, that which is big and that which is small. As Allah Azza wa Jalla said, فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Then know by your Lord they will not have iman until they make you a judge in everything that comes up amongst them. And then they find no hardship in themselves about what you decree, and they submit to it in totality. We have to follow the way of the Prophet, not upon our understanding, not upon the claims of these individuals, but upon the way that he was upon that day and his companions. And if you get confused, and if it becomes unsure, then this principle will help. Because all you have to do is look at what's apparent. Because the Prophet, he told us, لا تزال طائفة من أمتي ظاهرين. There will not cease to be from my nation a group of individuals apparent upon the truth, victorious. They will not be harmed by those who abandon them, nor by those who go against them. So if you're unsure, then look for those individuals who everything they call you to, and everything they advise you, and everything they suggest for you is going back to the way of the Prophet and his companions. Because if you don't, then Allah is threatening you with a great threatening. So he said, وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ نُوَلِّيهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُصْلِيهِ جَهَنَّمَ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. He said about those who don't want to follow this way with this understanding, abandoning the claims of these false people, that whoever separates himself from the messenger and follows a way other than that of the believers, we will turn him to that which he is turned to, and we will burn him in Jahannam, and what an evil place to end up. So, O servant of Allah, there's nothing left for you but ittiba'. There's nothing left for you to do except following the messenger and his companions. There's no reinventing Islam with the claim of advancement or the claim of civilization and being culturally advanced. Islam was what it was 1400 years ago. الْيَوْمُ أَكْمَلْتُ لَكُمْ دِينَكُمْ. Today I've completed your religion. Allah Azza wa Jalla said. So you have nothing left but to follow. Allah, He says, وَالسَّابِقُونَ الْأَوَّلُونَ مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ وَالَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُمْ بِإِحْسَانٍ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. Allah says the first and the foremost from amongst the Muhajirin and the Ansar, those who were upon what he was upon that day, and those who follow him, those who follow them in righteousness or in goodness or with perfection. Allah is pleased with them and they with him. So don't be misled by these claims, O servant of Allah. And when anyone who comes to you with something that wasn't done back then simply say to him, Al-Hujjah ala al-Mudda'i wa aqimu as-salah.